Hello everyone, welcome to Active Directory Solution Center. My name is Sai. I'm an MVP for Directory Services, and my day job includes I'm a senior infrastructure consultant working on Microsoft technologies. In the last session, we went through the security activities that are typically associated with identity and access management. We saw the different activities that needs to be performed and managed for any of the identity management solutions. Today we're going to extend the session and add the key initiatives in an identity and access management strategy. Most of the projects in every organization, they have different business drivers for determining and implementing an identity and access management strategy. So to ensure the greatest possible chances of success, the strategy must align with business goals in order to drive business results. So the project priorities would change, and it depends on the project, but there are few of the priorities which needs to focus on the executive sponsorship, and they would say the low cost results in order to build the momentum and reinforce the management approvals. You're going to address the high risk areas early. Security issues are often the primary business concerns, which should be addressed as quickly as possible. Standards, infrastructure are often prerequisites for other initiatives. So you have to establish a standard through policies and the infrastructure to support them, which involves a significant cost and efforts. So each organization that contemplates an identity and access management strategy will have a unique combination of goals and priorities to consider. So the below section actually focuses some of more common initiatives. There may be custom initiatives being followed by different organizations depending upon the needs of the project, but few of them are very common, and each is made up of one or more business and technology projects. So they include you have to establish security and access policies. That's the primary one, establishing the access policies. You're going to establish directory service and security standards. We have to implement identity aggregation and synchronization. We have to automate provisioning and deprovisioning. We have to provide effective group management, consolidating identity stores, providing password management and synchronization, enabling interoperability and single sign-on, strengthening authentication mechanisms. You're going to improve access for employees, customers, contractors, partners, establishing security audit policy, updating security procurement standards, enabling software development standards for identity use, and developing and migrating identity-aware applications. So these are the critical and the most common initiatives for any identity and access management project. So now the next session we're going to talk about establishing security and access policies. What are the most common or access policies that's been involved and that's been followed. So many organization access policy could specify at a global level business rules, and they're going to talk about regarding the access to a specific user's applications, and they have different policies that usually defined in terms of role, resources, operation, and restrictions. So we're going to see we're going to talk some of the examples of security and access policies, and rules within them include such as you're going to focus on account management policies, which may dictate the stale account should be regularly pruned from identity stores. The next one is password policies, which are really keen, which is really important. So which may state that the account policies must be changed on a regular basis, and that the passwords are certain minimum length and complexity. Once you identify these both policies, the third one would be more critical, like security audit policies. How many times you would have seen in an organization say we need to have the certain security audit policies being up and running, being configured, and so on and so forth. So we may need to define the security policies for the actions and should be monitored. So it's not only defining on a system, but we need to have a central monitoring system which captures these audit policies and produces in a HTML report for analysis. And you're going to configure the private policies which may define the right to be left alone, like the freedom from unwanted communication such as spam, and information privacy rules, which are the ability for individuals to control the collection and use of their personal information. So these are really, this is going to lock down your environment, such as this commonly seen in banks or mining industries or hospital environments. So these are the key policies. And the last one, which is really interesting one, is like access management policies. Access management policies can be defined in the different tiers, like one is a network tier, one is app tier, one is operating system tier, and one is the services tier. So and such as, like, for example, we're going to have an VPN access requires a smart card or multi-factor authentication. So we're going to use the management policy. We're going to create a management policy. Certain apps require biometric authentication, so we go for management policies. Extranet access to certain systems, which is restricted to a specific group of users and groups, requires and management policies, either with the help of firewall or with the help of a layer 3 device. And domain administrator logon requires a smart card. How secure that would be if a domain admin wants to change any group, any policy, any member, he requires a smart card to strengthen the security. The computer connections to high-value systems require a use of IPsec encryption. So I have seen many organizations configuring IPsec on the networks for certain related secure activities. So that's and the main advantage that would be the security again. So I'm re-emphasizing, like, nobody can easily put their DLL hooking onto the IPsec traffic and sniff in the network, or they'll not be able to identify the source and destination of this packet. So even if they sniff the packet, they will not be able to understand what to do with that. So that's the highest security standard using the IPsec. So with these policies in place, one might ask, what are the advantages that I'm going to get in? So the advantages would be, like, you're going to increase security across the organizations. You're going to increase security to specific high-value systems. You're going to improve security audits, right? You're going to achieve regulatory compliance. So you're going to have these surrounded to make a secure environment to work in and safe. So with these things, I mean, again, the customer might ask, what are the challenges associated? You just explained us with the benefits. You just explained with the policies that needs to be configured, but there are also the challenges piece which needs to be taken care of. The challenges that would be include, like, you have to establish the appropriate security requirements for each access scenario. So that's a critical one. And you have to implement policies with chosen technologies while acknowledging any constraints and limitations. So hand picking up the technologies and understanding, getting the SMEs out on the market is really a challenge for organizations. You may say, we go with X technologies that's going to safeguard our product, but when you look onto the cost, the real challenges would be: do we have anyone apart from the product group who can actually configure these and manage this for us? Majority of the times, it is a challenge to find such an employee or such a resource. The next one would be like coping up with the increases in management overhead and reduced efficiency that increased security without automation may bring. Right, and the most complex, it becomes more challenging when you start operating more complex security mechanisms. It's not that easy, and the fun part or the easy part would be the configuration part. Well, this is how it's going to get configured. But in the real scenario, when you truly implement in an organization, it is not what you expect. So things gets broke down. You need the experts in order to come down and analyze your network, because some of the even if you follow the best practices guide and you open up the firewall ports, you open up the access, you have the proper certificates across like source and destination to access to perform certain operation, things breaks down, and that's where it becomes more challenge if you look at from the business perspective. SLAs changes, your risk increases, RPOs changes, and etc. So the last one would be like managing conflict security requirements. So you have some sort of a conflicting security stuff being configured, and you need to understand, if I configure X, is it going to change Y? Because X and Y tends to seem really similar, and you have to take a call like, do you really require this? So these are some of the challenges in configuring in establishing the security and access policy. The second one would be the next session. We're going to talk about establishing directory service and security standards. Right. So when using Active Directory or any of the alternative identity store, so Microsoft provides its own identity store called as an Active Directory, but customers can use the third parties or maybe the different identity stores such as IBM, Novell, and so forth and so on. So having a standard directory service is key, is a primary enabler for identity and access management. So how do you manage the different identities if you don't have an directory source? Right. So however, organizations find that more than one directory services is needed in most cases. Say for example, you might have a merger, you might have an acquisition, and your application choices can introduce 2, 3 or more directory services in an organization. You cannot get rid of those apps unless you have when an acquisition happen, you have a revenue defined for recoding the entire application, which is highly unlikely to be happening, because you don't want to invest by doing an acquisition. You want to make sure you want to consume the existing resources of the acquired organization, right? So an effective identity and access management strategy consolidates these into minimum number of identity store that collectively become the standard directory service for organization. That's the key thing. So you're going to federate those things and ensure that the authentication is seamless for users. So user no longer need to remember 4 to 5 accounts. When he tries to log on to his Windows, he is going to use one, for application the different one. That's going to be more messy. So identity and access management resolves that by using providing a simple platform, or providing a common platform for supporting different authentication mechanisms. So in here, like, directory services can enforce the security policy standards, but organization may find considerable differences in their internal operations. For example, a department may have come into existence because of an acquisition, like a new for example, a finance department may got included, which would have a separate directory services and different security policies that differs totally from the parent organization. So, because these security standards related to identity are often like tightly integrated with directory services, they should be considered. They should be discussed together. You cannot say, well, I mean, we're going to use X policy, we're going to configure for the users or organization units, and they lock down security policies. We're going to use something different for your account. So we cannot do that. So you have to align the security policies, and after doing this, like, you're going to establish the directory services and security standards in a necessary prerequisite for establishing app development and procurement standards. So what are the benefits of using these? What are the benefits of establishing directory services and security standards? You're going to reduce administrative overhead, right? You're going to simplify provisioning. You're going to increase security across the organization. These are the benefit looks really good, but again, as I said, as I mentioned earlier, any benefits will have its own challenges. So what are the challenges that an organization should consider? The first one is line of business application and platform with specific directory needs. The second one is incompatible secure policies that cannot be aligned. Intra-organizational issues such as departmental autonomy. Regulatory requirements for information and management boundaries within organizations, such as financial institutions, have the challenges. So, for example, keeping personal banking business separated from insurance business. So this is one sort of an example that I like to give. The next one is, like, you're going to find a common authentication protocol that existing applications and identity stores across the organization can use. This is massive requirement, because when you do acquisitions, when you do mergers or divestments happens, you often don't have a common authentication protocol that can exist, or that should be supported, or that is supported across applications. So you need to discuss these things in a broader aspect. So after you identify these challenges, the last one would be, like, you're going to present entitlements in a common format that different applications and system across the organization can consume. Right. So we discussed in this podcast, what we discussed was, we saw what are the initiatives in an identity and access management strategy, and I handpicked out of the list I provided. I handpicked the first two. The first one was, like, establishing security and access policy. The second one was establishing directory services and security standards. In the coming series, we're going to talk about, like, implementing identity aggregation and synchronization and the rest of the topics. I hope this podcast will actually help in several identity and access management projects which the customers follow, or customers are implementing, which is of a good checklist sort of a podcast. Thank you very much, and have a nice time.